Before I introduce my guest to you today, and these are very special guests that I invited today, but I want to acknowledge the First Nations land that we are on. We are on Squamish, Silvertooth, and Musqueam. So thank you for allowing me to share your land with people like myself who are immigrants who have come here and settled, choose to be in Canada and settle in Canada. So with that, my special guests today are two spokespersons with Surrey RCMP, and on my right is Sergeant Al Stracco. You have seen her in the studio many times, and she is the media spokesperson for Surrey RCMP. And with her is Sab Sangra. She is also recruited as a spokesperson for Surrey RCMP, and both of them are in our studios today to talk about a lot of things. We're going to discuss a lot of things that the police deal with, the community deal with, and we deal with. So, Al, very nice having you.
Thanks for the invitation.
And your hair has grown, and you look beautiful.
Stop it, I love it.
Sab, you too, welcome on board as the spokesperson and on Kamilla Singh's show.
Thank you.
So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. One is children are going back to school on September 7th. And what does that mean? That means the police will be out in full force, tracking down the drivers who don't follow the speed limit. That's one thing we're going to be talking about. The other thing that we're also going to be talking about, speed. Speed kills. And you all have seen it. Last couple of weeks ago, 3 kids were killed because they were speeding, according to the police. And the third thing we're going to talk today is International World Overdose Awareness Day. By the time this thing will air, that day would have passed, but we need to educate each and every one of you. What does that do to your family? And sometimes because of the stigma of overdose, drug use, we don't talk about that as a family. But I think it's so important that even if you know your child is using it, if you know your husband is using it, to talk about that, how could we prevent it? Prevention is where the police come into picture. So welcome, Al. Let's start with school, back to school.
Yeah, back to school. I'm sending my 3 kids back to school just next week, and I think like a lot of parents, our routine has been sort of changed for the summer. One of those routines that people don't commonly practice is road safety. So we're recommending that people review their road safety plans with their families. Things like crossing the street, particularly when you have young kids, reminding kids to never jaywalk, to cross at the lights, make sure that they're seen by traffic when they're crossing the street, and encouraging them maybe to pick up some bright colors for their back-to-school wardrobe so that they're easier seen as we enter sort of the rainy phase of the season.
Yeah, because fall is coming and rain will be coming down, and then we have to watch out because you need reflectors, something to watch for. Sab, do you have family? Do you have kids?
I do, and my kids, as Justel said, also heading back to school, and I'm concerned about the same things as any other parent. School safety is huge for us, and we want to make sure that our officers are in the area, and they will be in the area enforcing if people are not following guidelines. People need to remember that's 30 kilometers per hour in school zones. So please slow down, look for the kids, and when you slow down, you see more of the road. We hear that over and over again. It's actually true. So when you are actually following the speed limits, you will be able to stop in time. If there's something that happens ahead of time, you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to react accordingly. And our kids need to get to school safety, right? So we got to make sure that we are all following the guidelines that are in there in place.
Because the school has been under lockdown for so long too, right? I mean, last year the kids went to school and it was kind of hybrid. Half of them went to school, half were teaching or learning online. So people, the habit of the drivers, and we all are drivers too, that we don't pay attention. We think, oh, there are no school, and we just speed and follow whatever. So I think for them to instill in their head how important it is. Now, school is back in session. So what's the time zone? Is there a certain time that the drivers needs to slow down in the school zone?
It's usually during school hours, or it's posted. So usually, depending on the circumstance, it could be from dusk till dawn, dawn until dusk, or it could be 7 a.m. beginning or during school hours. But I think the important part, regardless of the times that a school zone is posted, we know that more kids are going to be in the area. Kids are also excited. You know, my kids are younger, so I mean, they're super pumped to go back to school. Kids, when they're excited, don't always make good choices. They, you know, things can slip their mind easily. So if you are driving in the area of a school or a park at this sort of beginning of the school season, make sure that you're extra vigilant, because there is a chance that kids forget, and they could run out or maybe not make a good choice. So, you know, it is a shared responsibility between pedestrians and drivers, but, you know, even more so, I think at this time, recognizing how excited the kids are going back to school, we all have to be, you know, sort of extra vigilant. And I think that, you know, you brought up a good point about COVID, that people do get out of the practice of their routines, and I think there's also a lot of anxiety in the community. Parents have a lot to worry about right now. People are worried about, you know, their safety and COVID and stuff like that. So I think, you know, even more so, giving yourself an opportunity, going through your plans of dropping off your kids in your mind, the act of driving and the responsibility of safety on the roadway doesn't just happen when you're behind the wheel. It's about familiarizing yourself with what it's going to mean when you get to school. Does your school zone have any special driving considerations? Is there a special drop-off zone? Is there any part that's just for one way? Is there a no U-turn zone? So having a driving plan in your mind, will you drop off your kids when it rains? Are you planning to walk your kids on sunny days? Just, you know, going through that plan in your mind and actually having, you know, sort of your plan of action in your mind ahead of time can really reduce that anxiety. And heavens knows there's so much anxiety that taking a little bit of time, just even 5 minutes to plan that out in your head, actually can greatly reduce a lot of the stress, and even can help prevent collisions as we go forward through the school season.
And putting the headlight on, using the headlight on, because sometimes the kids see a friend and they get so excited and they don't see where they are crossing, and they say, wait for me, I'm coming. But they don't see not what they normally would do. But if you as a driver using headlight ons, maybe that can reflect, or maybe the kids can pay more attention to that the car is coming, I should wait, let the car go by or something. There's a lot of things that we need to keep in mind when the kids, especially the smaller ones, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say it always helps when you give yourself extra time.
Yes.
You know, don't wait until the last minute to leave the house with your kids. I know it's always a struggle to get the kids into the car when you're trying to drop them off. So we're all familiar with how stressful it is in the morning. Give yourself that extra 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So when you are actually in the traffic to drop off your kids, that you're not rushing. And that ensures not just your safety, but the pedestrians on the road safety as well.
Yeah,
And
100%.
also, I think also that if you are going slow, you can manage, you can put your brakes on and you can stop the car. But if you are overspeeding or going too fast, even not overspeeding, going too fast, then you cannot, that's a vehicle. Sometimes you are not able to stop on time. So anyways, with that, happy that the kids will be back in school. The kids are quite excited to be going back and meeting their friends and be back to school. So it's our job to keep all the kids safe as well. We as the drivers, it's our responsibility. Even it doesn't matter what they're crossing, but we as an adult are there to protect, or should be protecting all children. So that's on school zone. Can we just shift the gears and talk about speeding? People don't seem to get the message that speed kills.
You know, it's really unfortunate that sometimes people make decisions and not necessarily thinking through the consequences. And I think Sarb, you know, was very correct when she said about sometimes, you know, in general, we see people who are often in a rush, or they've had a stressful day, And they're speeding because it's sort of habitual or a pattern-based behavior. So evaluating and thinking through our decision making. So thinking about the consequences of high risk driving behavior, not only things like speeding, but using a cell phone when driving, or electronics, or not driving with due care and consideration for other people. We've all been there where it's like, oh my God, I am 30 minutes late for a meeting, and the stress gets to you. But trying to set aside, what it is you're late for or what it is you want to accomplish, and really thinking through what the consequences of your action will be, I think, is something that can help at least mentally prepare us and slow people down. Because unfortunately, there are sad consequences to high-risk driving behavior, in particular speeding.
Me and my editor, the other day, yesterday, we were talking about it, and we were talking about how the parents, just to make their children happy, or they get the driver's license when they've turned 16, that they give fast cars or buy that very fast cars for them, or expensive cars, and that the kids don't have to earn the money, to save the money, to be able to buy nice cars. That we sometimes as parents want to gift them with that, and once they get it, they want to show off too. So I know some people, in our culture, maybe that's what we do when the kid turns 16. I am not able to afford that car, but the kids will be driving the car because the parents are well-to-do, and that's how they gift. What do you want to say on that how wrong that is?
Well, I think, regardless of the kind of car you have, or what you can afford to buy your kids, or I think one of the things that sometimes is overlooked when it comes to learning how to drive isn't just the act of understanding the rules of the road and how to operate your vehicle.
Yeah.
Learning to drive should also come with an understanding of the consequences of your actions and what it means to have the responsibility of driving. Because driving comes with a great deal of responsibility.
Yeah.
Because your own safety and the safety of others on the roadway and other pedestrians really does rely on it. So I would encourage parents, regardless of the type of vehicle that you buy your youth, whether it's a, really fancy sports car, or whether it's an old beater, or even if you're a bike rider, I think that I would encourage parents and guardians to make sure that they're spending as much time as they do teaching your child the function of a vehicle, as you do talking to them about the responsibility that they have to ensure that they're operating that vehicle safely, and talk about the consequences of not doing so. And it's easy to find, like Sarv and I deal with this on a regular basis, sad news about people that lose their lives in collisions. It would be easy to find examples in the news from all over the province, and in fact all over Canada, that shows the consequences of unsafe driving behavior. So take the time not only to teach your kids how to operate the vehicle, but make sure that you're teaching them what the responsibility is and what failure to live up to that responsibility looks like. It doesn't matter if it's a little Mazda Miata or a giant Hummer or a motorcycle, the responsibility is the same.
And I think when the kids get the license for the first time, when they turn 16 or something, they get really excited, because I'm thinking about, while you were talking, I was thinking about the 3 youth that were killed by speeding, and all 3, 2 were 16 and 1 was 17, and there was a funeral held on the weekend for one 16-year-old. So I'm just thinking that even though you get your license, it doesn't give you the right to say, okay, now I've got the license, I know how to drive. He didn't hit anything, but because he was going so fast, hit the trees, right? He went in the bushes.
These decisions we make sometimes in a split second, it's hard to know what the consequence will be, particularly when you're young. We deal with that a lot for a lot of different things, not just driving. And I think youth is precious. Youth is inexperienced. And, as adults and, police officers, but also as people who live in the community, we need to make sure that we don't have another tragedy like we did. And, I don't like making any kind of lesson or example out of anyone's tragedy. But I hope people do have a conversation about what happened and about what a tremendous loss to the community it was, and talk to their kids. Because it is exciting to get your license. I can still remember, getting mine, and the sense of freedom and fun that I had being able to drive with my friends and get some Slurpees and do all kind of listening to music. But we want to make sure that our youth are making good decisions, and it isn't easy because I think that there is the excitement, there is the peer pressure. There's a lot of different things. That youth are dealing with, and they need that support from all of us going forward to make sure that they make good decisions, because it can be easy and just one decision can have a very big consequence, and it's very unfortunate.
Sab, I'm going to ask you that most of the time the police officers attend the scene where there's an accident and all that, and there's death, or whether it's drinking and driving or overspeeding or whatever. What does it do to you? You are also a human being. You also have children. You might have children that age. And going and attending the scene of the accident and seeing somebody bleeding or dying, and it's out of your control. You can do nothing. All you can do is call the ambulance. What is it like for you guys? You are the first responders. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's just, Kamilla, as you said, we under this uniform are a human being. We're just like you. We have emotions, right? The amount of trauma that we see in our lifetime of, I have 14 and a half years, Al's got similar, and our frontline officers, and it includes emergency health services that attend to scenes of tragedy, they have lasting effects on their mind. We have processes in place in our organization to support our members. There's a thing called debriefing.
Yeah.
So anytime there's an incident such as that you mentioned happens, we make sure that our officers are able to express their feelings. If they need extra support, the support is there for them. Even with the support, they will not forget what happened, and that stays with you for the rest of your life. And as police officers, we respond to, so many tragic events in our uniform duties, in our plainclothes duties. It's just, you deal with it as you go, but it does stay with you. It does have a long-term effect on you, and we always encourage our member to ask help, to seek help, and we have help for them. And we make sure that the members are supported fully when especially they come out from an incident like this, because it affects them greatly.
And I would say too that even this last example of the 3 youths who died as a result of that collision, one thing that also I think helps is seeing a lot of community support. We at the detachment receive support and thanks for the duty that our officers did. First responders from the paramedics and fire, but just seeing too how the community showed an outpouring of support for the families of those that were affected, and in other examples too, we've had other tragedies happen, or bad circumstances for families in Surrey, and seeing the crowdfunding that's done and seeing people come together, even vigils, walks of solidarity. It actually helps us as well, because it's when you're dealing with sort of the evils of the world or the tragedies, you can sometimes lose perspective because we deal with it so much, that there is still more good than bad in this world. There is more light than darkness, and so for us to have that reminder, it really helps. So we appreciate that as well.
That's wonderful. That's great. Now we might as well talk about overdose prevention. Like today, by the time the show is gonna go in the air, today, August 31st, is International Overdose Prevention and Awareness Day, which is today, the day we are recording. But I think you also go when a 911 call is made, and you also are the first responders going to see that what a waste of life, or how people, there could have been help available. That it's very unfortunate that the family member has lost their son, their husbands, and the stats I was reading today, most of them are men between the age of 30 and 58 or something, and most of this kind of overdose doesn't happen on the streets of Vancouver, mostly happens inside the homes. So let's talk a little bit about your call, whenever you turn a call, when there is an overdose death in the home.
I think, yeah, it's, we've come a long way just even in the last 10 years. I don't know if you'd agree, just trying to remove some of the stigma about addiction and removing people's mindset of criminality away from what really is, in a lot of cases, a health issue that stems from trauma and stems from, pain, people's pain management. And, a lot of people have entered into a cycle of addiction as a result of injuries and prescription drugs that they've started taking and become addicted to. So, even within policing, we try to approach the opioid crisis from a place of empathy and making sure that we're working towards not only removing dangerous drugs from the drug supply, but also arresting and prosecuting individuals who seek to benefit from other people's suffering, and to try to prevent fatal overdoses from happening in the community.
And we're doing so, as Elle said, prevention is at the heart of this big issue that we have, not in just our community, so all across Canada. Overdose has become so bigger. I'm actually happy that it's coming to light. So the community is actually more aware of it now, right? Because the numbers weren't published, or people didn't actually know how big this problem was. So I'm actually glad that these numbers came out. Now more community are more aware, and we can talk about it, and we can raise awareness within our families that this is not an issue of somebody who's homeless and is addicted to drug. It could be your father, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, right? And we need to talk about this in our families, right? We need to have discussions among our kids, among our spouses. There are issues that we don't talk about. If we know a family member who has addiction, let's help them get help, get them treatment, so they are not hiding in a bedroom trying to hide from you and using and overdosing and dying, right? That's when we get called. Half of the time, police doesn't even get called. Yeah. It's emergency health services that will respond and deal with somebody's overdosing.
Yeah, or they simply, it's just too late.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that can be done because they've overdosed and died. But I think there's just a couple of important key messages that we want the community to know, and especially when it comes to police in the opioid crisis, is that if you're overdosing and you need help and the police arrive, we're not there to arrest you or get you in trouble. Our primary concern is getting you the medical help that you desperately need. We want people not to use drugs alone. Of course, in the ideal world, you wouldn't use drugs, but we know that people do. We know that there are medical addictions and that people are addicted. So we urge you to seek treatment for your addictions, but don't use alone. There are apps that you can also download now so if you are using drugs, you can set like a timer for yourself, and if you don't respond and are unable to respond, it will notify help for you. There's lots of other, sorry, I'm forgetting some of them. There's other tips that we have. But
I'm just going to say we have police mental health unit that reaches out to our most vulnerable people. They will hook them up with the referrals, whichever they need, whether they need housing, they need treatment. So our members are out there. It's a group of members that work with a health nurse as well that reaches out to vulnerable people and assist them getting into those services that they need in the community. So as Elle said, most people in our community, I know they don't want to call the police because they think that once police gets involved, they're going to get arrested and charged. No, we are not going to arrest you or charge you. We will be there to assist you. If you need medical assistance, we will provide that to you. Our goal is not to prosecute people who are addicted. Our goal is to get the people who are in our community drug trafficking,
preying upon those who
people. Absolutely, that is what our target is. Not to target people who are already suffering.
And there is such a huge stigma in our community too. Even if your son or daughter or somebody have overdosed and lost their life, even now they don't want to admit that they were using it. They want to just hide it. They just don't want to talk about it. So this stigma needs to be broken. We need to talk about
Absolutely.
it. We need to educate and get help, right?
Absolutely.
We are not doctors. Parents are not doctors. They are doctors, but there is a lot of information. If they don't want to talk to your parents, the child, then they can call those numbers
That's
that they
right.
can get help, right?
Absolutely,
So all we are trying to say in here is, if you know of someone, then please get them help.
Yes.
There are a lot of helps available.
Yes.
Talk to somebody.
Yes.
The best thing is talking to somebody.
That's right.
And there is a thing called Naloxone or
Naloxone?
Naloxone.
Yeah.
Naloxone, yes.
And
You can get a kit. That was the other thing I
Yes.
forgot. That you can
Yes.
actually get that kit for free.
Yes.
You can go to the pharmacy and get it if you don't have a doctor, or you can go to your doctor and ask for it. And it is the drug that first responders use to revive you.
Yeah.
Keep a kit like that. Don't use alone, so that someone can administer that to you. Call it the first sign of help. Don't be afraid of the police. We're there to help you. And, get support. Your community loves you and cares about you, and we want to make sure you're safe.
Wonderful. That's great. Such a wealth of knowledge you both have.
Thank you.
So with that, I think I'm looking at the time. We are coming towards the end. You know, when we start talking, the time goes so fast.
Yes.
But we talked about everything and this wonderful information that we are sharing on here. And even if you can help one life, save one life with overdose, talking to your children about speeding, talking to parents or those drivers that are listening, not speeding in the school zone and all that, we have done our job. So thank you for both of you for coming in, taking your time
Thank you,
out,
Kamilla.
be able, during your working hours, be able to come and educate you and me and all of us that are watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.